Imagine moving into your college dorm excited for a fresh start, only to end up sharing a room with someone who makes your heart race in ways you don't even understand. I was 18, naive, and completely unprepared for what was about to unfold. One night, my roommate made me a proposition, something so bold, so impossible to ignore. It changed everything. I should have said no, but I didn't. And what happened next, you won't believe it. The moment I stepped into my dorm room, everything shifted. I wasn't expecting much. Just a basic college setup, two twin beds, a desk or two, and a roommate I'd probably just tolerate. But then I saw him, James Hayes, tall, broad shoulders, messy brown hair that somehow looked effortlessly perfect. He was sitting on his bed, scrolling through his phone, completely unaware that I had just forgotten how to breathe. "Hey, you must be Lucas," he said, glancing up with a relaxed smile. His voice smooth, easy, like he'd said those words 100 times before. Like he wasn't unknowingly turning my world upside down. I swallowed hard. "Yeah, Lucas Carter." We shook hands. His grip was firm. Warm, maybe a little too warm. For the next hour, we talked the usual stuff, where we were from. He was from California. I was from Ohio. Our majors. He wasn't sure yet. I was thinking about journalism. We even laid down a few ground rules. No loud music after midnight, no dishes left for days. All very normal. So why didn't it feel that way? James looked like he belonged in a sports magazine. The way he carried himself, confident, relaxed. It was effortless. Meanwhile, I was overthinking every single word I said. And then there was me. I was gay, quietly, secretly. Not even my best friend back home knew I'd spent most of my life pretending not to notice guys like James, pretending my heart didn't race around them. But now, I'd be living with one. Sleeping just a few feet away every single night. I kept telling myself it was fine, that I'd get over it. But I was so wrong. Later that night, after we unpacked, James flopped back onto his bed with a sigh. "College, man, can't believe we're actually here." I nodded from across the room, sitting on my bed, pretending to be focused on my laptop. Then out of nowhere, he asked, "Hey, you're single, right?" My heart nearly stopped. What?" He smirked, propping himself up on his elbows. "I mean, you don't have a girlfriend or anything, right?" I hesitated. "No, same," he said, stretching with a yawn, as he moved his shirt lifted just enough to reveal a lean-toned stomach. I looked away quickly, my face burning. "Well," he said casually, "guess that means we'll both be living the single life this year." If only he knew how true that was. And then, almost like an afterthought, he added, "Unless, of course, we help each other out." My head snapped up. What James gave me a crooked grin, his eyes flickering with something unreadable. "Just saying, we're both guys. We're going to be living together. No pressure, no drama, just helping each other out." I blinked, my brain short-circuiting. Was he serious? And if he was, what the hell was I supposed to say? Maybe I misheard him. Or maybe he was just joking, flirting, even testing the waters in a playful way. James had that kind of charm that made it hard to tell when he was being serious. Maybe this was just his way of breaking the ice, or maybe it was something else entirely. I knew we were going to be stuck in this tiny dorm room together, but still something about the way he said it didn't sound like a joke. And the way he was looking at me now, waiting curious, almost like he was testing me, made my stomach twist in ways I didn't know how to handle. I forced a laugh. "You're kidding, right?" James shrugged and leaned back against his pillow. "I mean, kind of, but also not really." His voice was too smooth, too casual, like he'd already thought this through. Like this wasn't the first time the idea had crossed his mind. I stared at him, trying to make sense of what was happening. I'd spent the last few hours doing everything I could not to notice every frustratingly perfect thing about him. His easy smile, the way he ran his hand through his hair when he was thinking, the way he seemed to own whatever space he walked into. And now he was saying this. "What do you mean by helping each other out?" I asked, hating how shaky my voice sounded. James smirked. "Relax, dude, I'm not saying anything wild. Just think about it. We're both going to be here all year. We're both single, and sometimes people have needs." My heart pounded in my ears. I knew exactly what he was implying. Suddenly, every moment from earlier tonight started clicking into place. The way he looked at me, the way he casually stretched just enough to catch me watching. The way he'd asked if I was single, I swallowed hard. And what exactly do you think I need? James's smirk deepened, but he didn't answer right away. He just let the silence settle between us, thick and loaded, like he was daring me to say more. My skin was burning. He was still watching me, seeing through me like I was made of glass, like every part of me. I tried to hide was right there for him to read. I couldn't stay there. I grabbed my phone and stood up. I need some air. Before he could say anything else, I was already at the door. The night air hit me like a wave. Cool, sharp grounding. I sat on the bench outside the dorm, gripping my phone in both hands. My thoughts racing. What the hell just happened? Was James messing with me? Was this some twisted joke? Or did he actually mean it? I'd never told anyone I was gay. Not my family, not my friends. I'd spent years pretending, pushing the truth down so deep. Even I wasn't sure if it was real anymore, telling myself I'd figure it out someday. But James wasn't giving me space to pretend. And the worst part, I wanted what he was offering, and that scared the hell out of me. I don't know how long I sat there before my phone buzzed. James, you good? I stared at the screen, my fingers tight around the phone. I could lie, say I was fine, go back upstairs and act like that conversation never happened, bury everything all over again, or I took a slow, unsteady breath and typed 2 words, me be right up. A few minutes later, I stepped back into the dorm. My heart was pounding like a drum. James was still awake, sitting on his bed with his phone in his hand. When he saw me, he raised an eyebrow. You get some air? I nodded. Yeah, just needed some fresh air. Silence followed. He was watching me again, like he was waiting to see what I'd do next. And before I could stop myself, I took a slow step forward. Okay, I said quietly. Let's say I'm interested in whatever this is. James's lips curled into a slow, knowing smile. You'll see, my heart was pounding so hard I could actually hear it. I had just given him permission. Opened a door I'd never even let myself acknowledge before. And now I was standing there, staring at James, waiting for him to make the next move. But he didn't rush. He leaned back against his pillow, stretching out like he had all the time in the world. Relax, man, he said, voice smooth like velvet. No pressure, no expectations, just a little fun between roommates. My mouth went dry, fun, I echoed. He smirked. Yeah, you ever had any? I couldn't breathe because he knew I hadn't. James tilted his head, eyes fixed on me, and suddenly I felt completely exposed, like he could see right through me, past every wall I'd carefully built, every defense I'd kept up for years. He knew I'd never been with a guy, and somehow that didn't scare him. If anything, it only seemed to make him more curious. I swallowed hard. I should probably shower. I blurted, desperate for a way out. James laughed softly, his eyes shining with amusement. Sure, take your time. I grabbed my stuff and practically ran to the bathroom. The moment I stepped under the hot water, I let out a shaky breath. What was I doing? This wasn't me. I wasn't the kind of guy who got involved in risky things. I had spent years making sure no one could ever guess the truth about me. I didn't take chances. I kept my head down, stayed safe. And yet James had looked at me like he'd been waiting for this, waiting for me to figure this out. That thought scared me almost as much as it thrilled me. I didn't know if I could go through with it. I didn't know if I could stop myself. By the time I returned to the dorm, the main light was off. Only the warm glow of his bedside lamp remained. James was lying on his bed, scrolling through his phone like nothing had happened, like he hadn't just turned my world upside down 10 minutes ago. Feel better? He asked without looking up. I nodded, gripping my towel tighter. Yeah. I stood there, hesitating. Now, what did I just crawl into my own bed and pretend that conversation never happened? Should I say something? James looked up at me, his eyes briefly flicking to my bare chest before meeting my gaze again. Then casually he patted the empty space next to him. A silent invitation. My whole body tensed. This was the moment I could still walk away, climb into my bed, turn off the light, forget any of this ever happened, or I could go sit next to him. I didn't let myself overthink it. Slowly I walked across the room and sat down on the edge of his bed. James didn't move. He just kept scrolling like it was nothing like this was normal, but I could feel it. The space between us buzzed. My skin tingled. The air felt charged. Then he nudged me. Just a small movement, barely even a touch, but it sent a jolt straight through me. I turned to him, heart hammering. James smirked. "See," he said, "not so bad." He was messing with me, testing me. I wanted to say something, anything, but my throat had completely closed up. And then so casually, so effortlessly, he reached out, hooking a finger under the edge of my towel. Just enough to tug, just enough to see if I'd stop him. I froze. This was it, the point of no return. I could feel the heat radiating off him. I could see the challenge in his eyes. He was waiting either for me to push him away or say yes. My head was spinning. I had spent my whole life afraid of this exact moment, afraid of what it meant. But right now, I wasn't scared at all. Slowly, I reached up, grabbed his wrist, and pulled his hand away. James raised an eyebrow. "Not ready yet. I swallowed hard. He waited patient, amused like he already knew what I was about to say. I exhaled slowly. "I don't want it to be a joke," I said. For the first time, his expression shifted, that teasing smirk of his. It softened just a little, and then to my complete surprise, he nodded. "Okay." He let go of my towel, completely leaning back, like he was giving me space. "No rush," he said simply, and it felt like he meant it. I just sat there, stunned, my heart still pounding. And for the first time, I realized something. This wasn't just about attraction. This wasn't just some dumb dorm room experiment. This was something else, something I wasn't ready to admit out loud. And James, he had figured it out before I did. I barely slept that night. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying every second of what had happened. He had pushed me, tested me, but the moment I pulled back, he stopped. No teasing, no trying again. Just a quiet, okay. And somehow that made it worse, because now I wasn't just thinking about the way he looked at me or how his voice dipped when he was messing around. Now I was thinking about how easy he made it feel. Like it wasn't terrifying, like it wasn't this huge, impossible thing that had consumed me for so long. Like wanting him could actually be enough. I squeezed my eyes shut, begging sleep to come, but my heart kept racing. By morning, I had convinced myself last night was nothing. A weird moment, a mistake maybe. And if I wanted things to go back to normal, all I had to do was pretend it never happened. So I did. I got up, got dressed, and walked past James without looking at him. I felt his eyes on me, but I didn't say a word. Neither did he. It wasn't until later that day that everything fell apart. I had spent most of the afternoon in the library trying to bury myself in my first week's assignments. When I finally came back to the dorm, James was there, but he wasn't alone. A girl was sitting on his bed laughing at something he just said. Her hand rested lightly on his arm. Something twisted in my chest, ugly tight. I shouldn't have cared, but I did. James glanced up the second I walked in. His smirk faltered just a flicker, like he could see exactly what I was thinking. And then he did something that nearly knocked the air out of me. His arm slid around her waist, pulling her close, and just like that, my whole body turned cold. I swallowed, forcing my voice to stay steady. Hey, man," James replied smoothly, like nothing was weird. Like we hadn't nearly crossed a line last night. "This is Jenna," he said casually. "We met in class." Jenna gave me a polite smile. "Hi," I smiled back, just as politely. "Nice to meet you." But James didn't move his arm. He didn't stop looking at me either. And that's when I realized he was doing this on purpose. I didn't know if it was some kind of test, or if he was trying to prove a point, or if he just wanted to mess with my head, but I could feel it the way his eyes lingered. The silent challenge. And the worst part, it was working. I barely made it 10 minutes before I mumbled some excuse and left. The second I stepped out of the dorm, it felt like I could finally breathe again. But I didn't know if it was relief or something worse. All I knew was I had to get out of my own head. I pulled out my phone and texted the one person who always helped me do that. "Me, you free tonight?" A second later, Ethan. "Always. What's up?" "Me, let's go out. I need a distraction." Ethan. "Uh-oh. What did your roommate do now?" I hesitated, then typed me. "Nothing." Ethan. "So definitely something." "Cool. See you in 12. Ethan had been my best friend since high school. The one person I didn't have to pretend around. Not completely. Anyway, he didn't know I was gay, but he always knew when I was spiraling. And tonight I was definitely spiraling. We ended up at a bar near campus where the music was too loud, the lights were too dim, perfect for trying to forget the perfect frustrating mess I left back in the dorm. Ethan nudged me. Okay, talk. I took a breath. It's just James. He raised an eyebrow. The roommate, I nodded. He smirked. What is he like? The worst person alive or something? I let out a hollow laugh. Yes, something like that. Ethan studied me for a moment, then grabbed his drink and raised it toward me. All right, here's to forgetting about him. For tonight at least, I paused, then clinked my glass against his. I didn't know if I could forget, but I was damn sure going to try. I didn't get drunk, at least not fully, but after 2 drinks, the air felt lighter. My thoughts weren't screaming in my head anymore. And that was the point, right? To forget Ethan was saying something. Probably one of his usual stories about some party from back home. But I wasn't really listening, because even now I was still thinking about James, about the smirk on his face when he held that girl, about the way it felt like a dare. I hated that it got to me. I hated that I cared. I hated that, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't stop replaying last night. The way he looked at me, the way I'd almost let it happen, the way it felt like I was standing at the edge of something real. And instead of leaping, I ran. I exhaled sharply, dragging a hand through my hair. Ethan noticed. All right, dude. Spill. I shook my head. Nothing to spill. Ethan narrowed his eyes. This isn't nothing. This is Lucas Carter in full breakdown mode. I forced a weak laugh. I'm not. He cut me off. Let me guess, your new roommate's a total nightmare, but for some reason you can't stop thinking about him. My breath caught too close. Ethan didn't wait for me to respond. He just shrugged. Yeah, I had a roommate like that once. Took over the whole dorm, like he owned the place, had this annoying habit of, I wasn't listening anymore, because right then my phone buzzed. James, where are you? I stared at the screen and then another message. James, you okay? My stomach flipped. I hadn't expected that. Not after everything that happened today. Not after he spent the afternoon messing with my head. Ethan leaned over, catching a glimpse. Who's that? I quickly turned off the screen. No one. He raised a brow but didn't push. I took another sip of my drink. I wasn't going to text James back. I wasn't. But deep down, I already knew I would. It was late when I got back to the dorm. Too late, I should have just gone to bed. But the second I walked in, James was awake, sitting on his bed waiting. He didn't say anything at first, just watched me shut the door behind me. The tension was thick enough to choke on. Finally, he exhaled. You ignored my texts. I shrugged, keeping my voice even. Didn't have my phone on me? He let out a dry laugh. Yeah, sure. I swallowed hard. This was a mistake coming back this late, letting him get to me like that. I should have just gone to bed and ended the night. But I didn't. Instead, I took one slow step forward, then another. James didn't move. Didn't even blink. And before I could stop myself, the words slipped out. Jenna James raised an eyebrow. What about her? I hated how sharp my voice sounded. Did you sleep with her? The second I asked, I regretted it. Saying it out loud made it real. I couldn't pretend anymore that this was nothing. James just smirked, tilting his head. Would it bother you if I did? My throat tightened. I should have lied. I should have laughed, brushed it off, turned around and walked away. But instead I said the one thing I knew would wreck me. Yes, the smirk vanished. His expression shifted slowly. He sat up, resting his elbows on his knees, eyes locked on mine. Then do something about it, he said softly. My heart stopped. I couldn't move. Couldn't think he was calling my bluff, and I had no idea how to respond. His words just hung there, daring me to make a move. Then do something about it. My hands curled into fists at my sides. I'd spent years running from this, burying it so deep I could almost believe it wasn't real. But it was, especially now, not with him, sitting there watching me like he already knew the truth. Like he'd always known I took another step, then another. Still, James didn't move, didn't blink. And then before I could stop myself, before I could talk myself out of it, I was standing right in front of him. He was so close I could see everything. The faint freckles on his nose, the way his lips parted, just a little like he was waiting. And maybe he was. Maybe he'd been waiting for me this whole time. I took a shaky breath. This isn't a game to me, said James' expression softened. I know I don't want to be just some experiment, I whispered. You're not my Chesta Katie. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But I was so damn scared. What if this is a mistake? I asked, his lips curled just slightly. Then let's make it together. And before I could overthink it, before I could pull away again, he reached for me, one hand at the back of my neck, a slow, steady pull. Then his lips met mine. I'd imagined this before, late at night, when my guard was down, when I let myself dream about what it would feel like to want someone out loud. But nothing could have prepared me for this. James kissed me like he already knew every fear, every doubt I'd ever carried, like he wanted to pull them away one by one. His fingers curled against my skin. His grip was sure grounding. I melted into him. My hands gripped his shirt, holding on like I'd fall apart if I let go. Maybe I would have. Maybe I already had. When we finally pulled apart, I was breathless. James looked at me for a long moment like he was giving me space to regret it, to take it back. But I didn't, because I wasn't running this time. He smiled softly. See? Not so bad, I let out a shaky laugh. Not bad at all. The next morning, nothing looked different, but everything had changed. I woke up feeling lighter, like something inside me had finally settled. James was already awake, lying on his bed, scrolling through his phone. When he noticed me staring, he smirked. Morning sunshine, I groaned and dragged a pillow over my face. Please don't call me that, he chuckled. You planning to pretend last night didn't happen? I hesitated. Then slowly I shook my head. No, his smile softened. Good, and just like that, I knew this was only the beginning. Some moments change you forever. Some people walk into your life and rewrite everything you thought you knew about yourself. For me, that person was James. I spent years hiding, too afraid of what it would mean to admit this out loud. But here's what I've learned. Fear doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It loses power when you face it. So maybe you're standing on the edge of something big. Maybe you've been running too. Maybe it's time to stop, because once you take that first step, everything can change. Thank you for staying till the very end. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe to Anonymous Gay Crushes for more heartfelt stories. Your support truly means the